And our conversation is, we want to look at the global geopolitics. And if I can give you some break, I mean, a little bit of a breather here. You know, about 10 days ago, there was a major display of military power as well as political power in China. They were marking their 80th anniversary since the war with Japan ended, and 4 world leaders were on display. We saw the North Korean President, Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin of Russia, Iranian President, Masroor Pezeshkian, as well as the Chinese President, Xi Jinping. And according to many commentators, this was the beginning of a new global alignment. And the question is, where is Africa in all this? And who should we align ourselves with? And oh, by the way, there was also the Zimbabwean president as well, who was invited by Xi Jinping. And more so, how should Kenya align itself with the re-emerging global military as well as political forces? That is the conversation that we just want to have here on BizCheck. We have Chris Otieno. He's the chairperson of the PROSEC, and PROSEC stands for Protective and Safety Association of Kenya. He's the acting Secretary General. He's joining us this morning, and he has been here, and of course, he's also a security analyst. Thank you very much indeed, Otieno, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, O'Brien, for having me. Thank you so much.
And next we have Dr. Mbaye. Dr. Mbaye is a peace, yes, this is Dr. Peter Mbaye. He's a governance and leadership expert as well as a peace expert. And he's also joining us there so that he can help us put this conversation into perspective. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Ari, for joining us this morning. And first of all, I want to hear from you. How would you describe, Dr. Ari, the current global geopolitics?
Thanks so much, O'Brien, and our viewers. We are living in a very interesting times. Now, just to be within line with our viewers, geopolitics simply means how the world system, you know, the geopolitics, how the world system affects each one of us wherever we are. It's, we talk about the economy of Kenya, for example. We talk about East Africa. We talk about Africa. Now, geopolitics is what happens out there, how it affects back home, the kind of impact it has and all that. Now, you mentioned about, and normally several things happen. There is, first of all, what you call the economic forecasts. The way the world is organized and structured in terms of, it is the whole world, for example, but it is interlinked with everyone else. So you can't say, because I'm in Kenya, I don't care what happens, you know, in Russia. I don't care what happens in America, in Australia, in other, because there's some interconnectivity. There's something we normally say that the world is a global village, that whatever happens here can affect. Now, but more closely, especially in the last 5 years, like you have mentioned, we have seen a lot of economic forecasts affecting, of course, trade and inflation and monetary policy. We have seen a lot of tariffs pushback. America come in and says, look here, we want to push back tariffs affecting China, metals, autos, and all that. Then, of course, there's inflation. Out of the wars in Ukraine and Russia, it has affected, you know, fuel, food, all the way to Kenya here. So,
especially grain, wheat.
Especially grain, you know, fuel and fertilizers, all those kind of things. So therefore, we can't ignore geopolitics. We can't ignore what's happening outside there. And then brings me to the issue you have mentioned. When you see alignments, therefore, where are we as Africa? Now, remember there has been all these meetings, you know, Japan, Africa, you know, cooperation, US, Africa cooperation, China Africa cooperation, Europe and all that. But the question is, how prepared is Africa to be able to engage? Okay, how prepared is Africa to be able to engage? The center powers, they come with an agenda. They come knowing we need Africa because of the resources. It's a big place and unexpected resources. How they normally come with some advantage. You remember them complaining how they are put in buses, right? Now, but the question is, and you remember we had this conversation sometime when I was involved in matters of trade and investment. Can we first organize ourselves as Kenya? Then we get East Africa, remember our issue of expanding the market. Then expand our market through the issues of AFCFTA. As Africa first, Then we take advantage, then we determine as Africa, who do we need in the rest of the world? Who do we need to engage with about fuel, about food, about grains? That is a kind of the ideal situation we need to have. Unfortunately, the developed worlds normally have a very good system of engaging with us. So when they invite us for meetings, they have an agenda. But ourselves, by the time we go there, they look us at 42 or 43 fragmented states. So they are able to come and get a deal with this president, get a deal with the other president, without that competitive advantage of being able to do something together. That is the worst imbalance of geopolitics and the issue of the West versus Africa, how we go on about all this. Yes, where are we in these things? Unfortunately, they have to organize first. Then they see where to get it in Africa when they have an advantage. Well, when of the day they have organized themselves. That's where you see, when you see all the powers you mentioned there coming together to say this is what we need to do. Then there is the other alliance of America and the allies. Africa normally comes at the end. That's why for years we end up being the victims. We are not able to be on the table and be proactive. That, first of all, because before you get a solution, you first must of all understand what is the problem. And for me, that's the problem. That
is the problem. And I like the fact that you are bringing in the issue of, splitting Africa into many mini groups and inviting this president and leaving this one out, as opposed to inviting the African Union, which is the representation of African countries. I'll be coming back to you for that. But I want to hear these, Chris. I mean, we've sat with you here and discussed the ongoing various global wars, from Russia, with Ukraine, to Israel and Iran, to the tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Has the situation gotten better since the last time I engaged you, or is the situation getting out of hand?
Categorically, O'Brien, the situation is getting out of hand. And why this situation is getting out of hand is just what the question you a few minutes asked about the global alignment and realignments. We know very well that right now the current world order is US-led, the dollar economy, right? And what we've seen, countries that have been classified by Western narration as rogue nations, that is North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, what they have done, they've come together. And I'm so happy to say that in that coming together in the name of BRICS, we see one African country, South Africa. That is a very good impression towards the African approach to global issues. Now, when you go back to the wars that are being fought, we actually also seeing the wars of the future either being fought now or will be fought in the near future. America and Venezuela are right now in a very tight situation where America has been bombing Venezuelan vessels in the name of drug fighting. If you go to Taiwan, there's a very big confrontation in South Asia about US and China trying to show their dominance. China have gone way ahead because of the technological advancement. China is 15 years ahead of the United States in some technology. They've done
especially in the hypersonic missile.
Especially in the hypersonic missile and the airplane carriers. And many others. They're even doing around 150 feet deep of military headquarters, just like the Pentagon. Israel, on the other hand, supported by America unwittingly, is now fighting wars from 8 fronts, to include the recent attack on Qatar. So all this, day by day, is worsening the global situation, is worsening global peace and stability. And as this goes on, we start to see African countries coming up. You've seen South Africa taking a case to the ICC against Israel. You've seen also other nations in Africa starting to point fingers and say, guys, you got to stop in this. What you're doing is not right. So gradually, as these wars go on and these alignments still take a lot of root, we'll see a lot of disparities amongst countries, and Africa will take place. It is wrong to say Africa is right now being played as cards on the table, but gradually,
it's a pawn in a chess game.
Gradually, we're going to come and get our place in the global arena and have a voice. And we've seen Burkina Faso leading that road. And as Burkina Faso takes that road, very many leaders are looking at what is happening there. We've seen other military juntas taking the same kind of a path. So gradually, step by step, Africa is coming to that field where we'll be able to say, we can't do this. Even our own president that last time said, we're going to run away from buying our petroleum in dollar, we're going to use Kenyan shillings. What does that tell you? It tells you African countries are now realizing themselves that they're taking a route that Africa ought to have taken.
They're taking a position.
Absolutely.
Very good. I mean, I want you to hold it there because we want to go to the county of Kisumu. Before we went to the county of Kisumu, you talked about the new realignments that are taking place and the role of Africa in these. And the question that I wanted to find out from you is, when you look at the way the global order is architectured, you have the big powers, and the big powers are China, the US, Russia, then you have United Kingdom as well as France. There is a debate that is ongoing whether we need to have why India is out in this group, despite the fact that it's now the fourth biggest economy. Yes. Why we still have China and I mean not China but France and UK in that group, despite the fact that when you look at their military as well as economic and political influence, they have waned in the last 20 years. And there has been called that it is high time that we have Africa represented by AU or the African Union. Do you see this happening?
I don't think that will happen. And why I'm saying I don't strongly think that will happen, we know how the world order works. For example, like my brother said a few minutes ago, that Africa has been partitioned. And yes, it has been partitioned for specific reasons. If you look at, for example, Southeast, if you look at Middle East or West Asia, America's interest in West Asia is taken by its military bases in Egypt and in Qatar. And you come to Kenya, how does the US monitor the Horn of Africa? They have bases here in Kenya. Okay. So basically, America will look at its interest in the global arena and how easy they can access those ones, and therefore go out and use those countries to make sure that they are taking root. As long as American interests and the European interests are to be taken care of in the globe, Africa will have very little voice to present itself as one global unit. Will continually be partitioned, will continue to be looked at differently. And worst of all is that most of our leaders, they get to their power through Western assistance. So their allegiance and their loyalty goes back to those people. They will surrender to them. They will give them what they want for the very reason to keep themselves. So as long as that is the system that works globally, Africa has a long way. But we are saying there is hope. We see what is happening in Burkina Faso.
Yeah, but we know hope
that is hope.
A bad strategy in management.
It is a bad strategy, but it is the first step towards achieving any objective.
Very good. President William Ruto has been at the forefront, calling for reforms in the global financial architecture so that it can include more voices from Africa. Africa is the second largest continent in the world. It also has the second biggest population in the world, and their contribution to the global economy is also growing very fast. Is the world listening?
The world will not listen. What the president was trying, because he no longer does, I mean, that was about 2-3 years ago, is very ambitious. It will not work because there is something in international relations. We study something called there are countries which are at the center and others at the periphery. So now you can't come suddenly, you are a president of some in some country in Africa, then you want to come and say, we want our space, we want to change the financing architecture, we are demanding ABCD, you are promised a lot of money for PR on climate change. We have been this thing together with you. They don't. So every year you have to keep on, because they are like, okay, excuse me, we want it's about our interest, okay? It's about our interest. Absolutely. You are there to help us achieve our interest. We are not here to listen to you. And it's a very simple thing. Which country are you? What is your economy base? I was going through the issues of economy all the way from the US, coming to China, Germany, Japan, and all that, going all the way down. These are the big boys. They control the group. They control the world. Now, how do they make sure you don't come together? Now, when you talk about Burkina, which is a very good example, but how much can you do as one country? How much can you go? If you want to come, listen, there was an issue of remember the Pan-African issue of having one railway, having one, just in Africa. They can't allow it. They cannot fund it. Because if you want to have a means of traversing this Africa all by yourselves, having your own payment system, you remember PAPS and all that, there is a way. You have to be better. I'm not saying it's not possible, no. But you have to be better organized. Not just talking and trying to do it, because guys will come, they make visits to your capital, okay? They come and give you some stuff and show you are better than the other person. Why is it that when people come to visit, all these presidents from China, from US, they don't come to other countries? They don't go to Addis Ababa and say they want to meet the African Union guys. They go to specific countries and they make specific deals. And they make you know, look here, Kenya, you are bigger. In South Africa, you are the big boy. You go to South Africa, you are the head of SADC. They go to Nigeria, you are the guys of ECOWAS. They go to Egypt, and they fly back. If they want to twist a bit, they can jump into Zambia, a bit and Angola, just where they have interest.
For optics.
For optics, where they have interest. And maybe Rwanda to show you, you are a guy there, so you can be checking on Kenya, all these kinds of things. For me, and it's good also to talk like people who have some, of course you say the hope is a very bad breakfast, it's a very good breakfast, very, very bad for supper. But what can we do therefore? O'Brien, if you ask me, because I've had a lot of, especially in this area, also of trade and investment, the question is, are we willing as Africa to work as one block? Is it possible? Is it possible the way we try to do it, which we achieved, by the way, getting together ASCFTA, so that EAC, COMESA, SADC, North Africa, can be able to begin talking in one language. That is first steps, where we should come together and begin, not just politically, we can even begin economically. Now, South Africa, Ethiopia, and which other country in BRICS and Ethiopia have been picked to be in BRICS. You see, tells you we recognize the economy. Why not African Union is a member of BRICS?
And by the way, why is Kenya not a member of BRICS?
Thank you very much. The lack of a clear foreign policy.
That is a question I'm always asking myself.
A good question. Lack of a clear policy of how to engage with the world.
Because if we have Kenya there, then it's going to complete the word BRIC.
Now listen. Why is Kenya not there? It's because of two things. One, we are too careful, or lack of it, or careless. Because we don't have a clear thing of engagement with the world. Okay? If we know what we want, we know what to do or what not to do. If we know, but the question, do we know? Because you first of all must know who is Kenya, where are we staged.
Do you think we know?
That's the question I want to answer. The question is, we don't know. If we knew, we would have taken some stand. Listen here, when you take Ethiopia, you leave Kenya here. You take South Africa, well, South Africa, SADC and all that, like a regional,
yeah, I mean, it's the most developed country.
A regional leader, right? Now, when Ethiopia goes ahead, leaves Kenya here, that is a very big diplomatically. It's a big message. Remember, Ethiopia has been trying to run ahead of Kenya in terms of a lot of things anyway, economically, GDP, and all those kind of things. Then you move to Egypt. The only country now where Kenya would have been, Ethiopia is. Because now going to North Africa, Egypt is in BRIC. Going to Nigeria, to Western Africa rather, maybe what is missing there is either Ghana or Nigeria. Now already, Kenya, because of our indecisiveness, we are not sure what to do with this world. That is why we go to America, we do some deals, okay? But the deals that we do, somehow they don't even work. When you go to try to do the Nairobi-Mombasa expressway, yeah. I don't know what happens, whether it's inflation of the rates of the cost becomes too much, it is abandoned. Then we jump to China. And we rattle US very badly. They are like, you are jumping. Now, this jumping is not so good. You can say that you are unaligned and you can do business with anybody, but at the end of the day, you have to decide what you want, because you cannot rule forever. In an administration, decide who do you want, how do you want to work with. Because when it becomes very openly that you are this side and you are that side, then you're not for any.
Dr. Mbai, from where you stand, I mean, when you look at the BRICS economy, it represents about 40% of the global economy.
Yes.
It's going to grow.
Yeah.
It is expected that by the year 2030, it will represent about 50%.
Yes.
Is BRICS good for Kenya?
That's a very good question. Now, the question is this. What does BRICS stand for? BRICS, if you look at it, it completely speaks everything opposite of the Western Alliance. And by Western Alliance, I mean US, which is the leader of that alliance. Literally. That's why you don't see...
The US and EU.
Yes, that's why you don't see... That's why there is... EU in general, I mean UK and the EU. And that is the Western, the traditional powerhouses since the inception of the world or something, of the whole global thing. Now, BRICS stands for power towards Asia, power leaning towards Asia, very powerfully. Now, it's a big threat. Actually, all the wars the US president have is towards China. All the trade wars he has, all the tariffs, all the issues he has.
And he's losing that war.
Yes, because let me tell you, and let me just be very frank here, you cannot fight a war, you cannot fight an idea whose time has come. One, you can't fight technology. because you can't box technology into a corner and say, please don't live here, so that you don't become a threat. Now, what has happened to US and the UK and the European Union? They have been traditional, but unfortunately, they modernized, that is the word, innovation, towards how to continue being global leaders. But what China did, and the Asian countries, they have been able to consistently continue. And what is the trick? Innovation, manufacturing. That is what has made China to be almost there. I think the GDP for US, about that trillion US dollars, China is almost half, more than half, because it's,
it's almost 20.
19, almost 20.
Almost 20 trillion
so I
US
can
dollars.
tell you, in another 10 years, in another 10, no, if not about 5 to 10 years, China will be very hard because of innovation. Of course, there's a mockery to that. And this is the biggest problem now. Why US is scared? Remember, US came to this world and told us, we are the fathers of how worlds are going to be run.
Yeah.
We are the fathers of democracy. Oh, they are lecturing everybody around here and the whole world. And also human rights. We want to protect human rights. We don't want people, to be harassed, to be killed. We don't want these, one-man shows in countries. But unfortunately, China, actually, they have reviewed their constitution. Right now, the president of China can go on for life. They have removed
And it is working for them.
Yes, it's working. Now, look, that is serious. Because are we saying the whole thing that which has been brought down our throats by America is wrong? Is bad for the economy? Because if everybody is looking to China, Asia, and all these other countries, what is happening? Now, the only problem is, you ask a question, is it good for Kenya? Now, I would say one thing. Why is it that the deals Kenya is doing with America are not working? And somehow, and let me use the word somehow, when you go get a Chinese to come and do Thika Highway, we see it within a record time. Why is it? Those are the questions to ask ourselves.
There is SGR there.
There is SGR there. Now, never mind that, unfortunately, a lot of things other happen. That one we have to come into, because there's a perception, Chris, that once we have these Chinese contracts, a lot of sometimes they are not very clean. They are inflated because these guys also, they are worse than Africans. They know how to do kickbacks and all that. It's a perception that around here, well, they deliver, but maybe at a higher cost than the others. That's another story altogether. Therefore, if that is where we want to go, O'Brien, the question is, where are we ready to associate? That's why Ethiopia was picked, because Kenya is not sure whether they want to be in BRICS or they want to follow US. Those are the issues that we need to think ahead. Otherwise, a small mistake. Using the look at Ethiopia, very aggressive. I'm sure by now, they could be a few steps ahead on GDP, if I'm not wrong.
No, the Ethiopian economy is larger than Kenya.
It's larger than Kenya. And it has been
growing fast.
Slowly, just there, and they are very aggressive on many things. Because, in short, because of our indecisiveness, we don't know whether we are following US and EU. We don't know whether we are following the East and all that. We are dragging behind, and Ethiopia is going to overtake us. It's a very bad disaster. Knowing all the disadvantages Ethiopia has, and here we are, because of lack of decisiveness. In the issues of global engagement, you have to have a stand. You have to have a policy.
And what pains me the most is the fact that, Addis Ababa is grabbing the diplomatic hub from Nairobi. When you look at the Bola International Airport, 5 times bigger than JKIA.
There's no
Look at what they are developing, the new airport with a capacity of 100 million people.
Yes.
We are still talking about JKIA, which was constructed back in 1978.
Many years,
We are still doing a lot of patch-ups. I want to hear this, Chris, from you. When you look at Kenya, we are highly aligned and we lean towards the West. But when China displayed its military capabilities about 15 days ago, it was clear where the military powers of the world is going to be in the next 10, 15 years.
Yes.
Is Kenya aligning itself to head to that direction?
There'll be many items to consider where Kenya needs to align itself to. Number one are security guarantees. Number one item here, we are very much aligned to the West. We are trapped into Western ways of life. Financial system, SWIFT system is theirs, internet is theirs. They want to control our finances, want to control our trade, our policy, and all that, even to include our knowledge. They want to control all that. Before we can release ourselves from this entanglement, we need to find an alternative. And China offers a very good alternative. If you look at the amount of business or the volume of business coming to Kenya, from Kenya to China, is big and it's really growing. The other day Kenya was being asked, where are you, West or East? I think we ought to have come very, very clear that, yes, we are still trying to to determine our path. But our roots are still in the West. So it's going to take us a lot of time as a Kenyan country. But in the long run, we ought to find where is trade coming to us, what is the biggest benefit to us, and if we go that direction, what is the net effect in terms of how we run our country. And that, from where I'm seated, is best we go this other direction.
When you saw the military power display in Beijing,
Yes.
what crossed your mind?
What crossed my mind was obvious. If you want to protect your interest in the globe, you must establish your military strength and establish that emphatically. And China did that. To me, when I sit down as an analyst, military analyst, as a security analyst, I'm telling myself that China has spoken to the world, telling the world that military, we are capable of giving you guarantees. So this is now the time you relook at the relationship with the West, leave that direction and come direction. Once you come to us, we will protect you. And they are doing that so emphatically. The kind of robots I saw there, the kind of new 21st century technology I saw in that military display was in another world. The kind of missiles, hypersonic and intercontinental ballistic missiles, what I saw that particular day told me China is ready to take over the leadership of this world, and they can protect the leadership with the military strength that they have. Outside of that, in terms of intelligence collection, they have the best intelligence system in this world. Every Chinese in this world reports back to the Homeland Security what they have seen. You need intelligence to run your military strength.
Are they better off than CIA and Mossad?
If you, in terms of resources, CIA is way
It's
up
well
there.
resourced.
Very well resourced. If you come to Mossad, technologically, Mossad is way ahead. If they want to take the citizen, they will kill to get the citizen. Americans, they will negotiate forever to get a citizen. China, what have they come with? Technology. And they are coercing the African countries day by day with equal partnership approach to any global issue. And that's what we want. We want people bullying us, telling us this is the way you have to go forcefully. No.
Peter Mbai, as we wind up this conversation, what is your final input?
I think I have no problem per se with what Chris is saying about this issue about leaning too much or hearted. I would want to look at it cautiously. I've been to China. I've led several delegations there. We have an organization that partners with Africa and the rest of the world, including China, US, and other places. Of course, US and AU, it's an open democracy. Things look straightforward. Now, China is okay, good, and these guys, they went ahead on issues I mentioned, innovation and manufacturing.
Yep.
Now, the only problem is it's a closed system. For information, there's nothing like all these social things we use here.
Yeah.
You land in China, they are the inventors of TikTok. They don't use TikTok. The Google, it doesn't work there. It's a very interesting economy. So, what is it should we do? Can we focus back home, Brian, and do two things? One, focus on food security and manufacturing. That is the way to go. Gentlemen,
thank you very much indeed for finding time to swing by so that we can discuss these issues. Your time is highly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Very good. I mean, that's a team of experts, Peter Mbai, a leadership and governance expert, as well as Chris Otieno, a security and military expert, joining us this morning to discuss these issues. O'Brien Kimani is my name. We've been here for the last 2 hours. Kurunzi is coming up next with Sheila Kayaro. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.